I mean, we should really ask the tough question, and I'm looking for the plush toys. Like, I want a Blade of Terror plush toy for my child.
Greetings from the Worldspanner universe. As Worldspanner Factions gets up and running and the playtesting winds down, we are conducting after-action interviews with playtesters. We give them a list of questions and then walk away from the filming so that they can go at answering however they would like without knowing the questions ahead of time. These two troublemakers did so well at the process that we had to share it unedited with the community. Heck, they should have their own YouTube channel. Lots of great info in this interview and more material to come as Worldspanner Factions launches.
You want to read the next one?
Sure thing. So, what is the best part about playing Factions?
Jeez, there's a lot. I would say, for me, it's the diversity of every game. So, depending on how the game is set up and which character you get, there's not a prescribed cookie-cutter sort of way to play the game, right? Or a certain strategy that always wins the game. So what's awesome about it is that determined by your character set, the map, your items, and then obviously your own personal sort of play style, every game is super different.
Absolutely.
It is not the same, and that's what makes me excited for it as well. I have more to say on that, but why don't you go?
Yeah, no, likewise. I love the fact that the map is never the same. You don't pull out the same board and fold it open, right? You take the pieces, you put them out. It's a different experience because of that. The characters and the way that they all interact with the board, every hero has different interactions with the map and with each other.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, no two games ever feel very much the same. And also, it's a game where you get both the collaborative and competitive enjoyment out of gaming in most cases, because if you have two teams of people, multiple people on each team, it's very easy to have the characters from each team divided up amongst those players, and for you to get that experience of playing a game cooperatively with people on your side as well as going up against those yahoos on the other side.
Totally. I would say, kind of along those lines, that there's a pretty satisfying payoff with playing this game, because I feel like you can achieve these smaller victories or smaller goals, which then build to like the ultimate goal, obviously, of winning the game. But there's a pretty strong payoff during the entirety of the game, which makes, I think, victory sweeter, but also defeat extra bitter, which is addictive in its own sort of way.
It has that League of Legends addictive quality to it, right? Where every game, something's a little bit different, but you still know what you're getting into, and then in the end, it's such an intense rush when you get to the end of the game. It's regardless of what happened.
Dude. Whether you win or whether you lose, you're coming back. But we never bet any money, so.
Yes.
There's more. I just want to give a shout out though to the artwork though of this game.
Yeah, everything has so much character, which makes a really emergent story from each time you play this game. Yeah, the different ways the characters just have come to life. All the items that are available for them to use in the map, all the art really brings that to life.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, the board is vibrant. It's not muted. It's not dull. The characters have these pictures that I think kind of embody their not just their abilities, but kind of who they are as a character. So it kind of gets you more invested in who you're playing as well. So there's a lot of like those smaller things that I think add to the experience of playing Factions. So
certainly.
Okay, let's go on. What changes to Factions really perfected and supercharged the game system from the previous Duel of Ages version, James?
Oh, well, since we're going to go with me first because you did ask the question.
I did. This time. You're next.
I love the fact that it is streamlined down a lot. A lot of the extra fiddly rules that you had to kind of tweak with in the previous version of the game, like the mesas, right, with the different levels of elevation, line of sight on that. A lot of the extra movement rules, like 3-cost movement for swamp, that's out now with 2-cost movement for all rough terrain. The size of the map is also fewer hexes with less movement, so there's not quite so many spaces. And in addition to that, the placement of characters is significantly more important because of the fact that you can't stack characters on the same hex anymore. Quite frankly, most of my favorite changes to this version of the game simply come from the map and the heroes' interactions on the map.
Yeah, that's really good. Mine is along the same lines. I think simplifying the game and simplifying the rules makes it more accessible to me, because I'm not a board game scholar nerd, plays a ton of board games on the weekends, uses a ton of time. So
Yes.
for me, I'm
Yes.
thankful to have a board game that does have a high skill cap of strategy, but still is something that I can understand, and
The barrier of
really,
entry is a lot lower.
exactly,
Yeah,
get
and that's
involved
great
with.
because you don't have as many situations come up when you're trying to teach someone how to play this game where you have to
Totally.
go, wait a second, I forgot one thing,
Yeah.
because there's some little rule about some detail that needs to be.
And I would agree with that. Like any sort of thing that I think someone enjoys personally. So if I enjoy a restaurant, right, I'm going to have somebody come with me or suggest that restaurant.
Oh,
for them.
absolutely, yeah.
And so the same way, like I want to teach this game to my friends who might not be board
Mm-hmm.
game people, but I think now I have more confidence that when I pull out that playbook, I'm not going to be dreading, the looks on their faces when it's like a novel. I think simplifying the game has been super beneficial. It streamlines it, it makes it faster.
Oh yeah, because it was
those
already
two.
a pretty approachable game to begin
Exactly.
with, right? The previous version, you and I taught so many people how to play it, we had a large following. But now, it's even easier to teach people, even though the depth is pretty much still all there.
Right.
There's not a lot of loss of the depth of the game, but a lot of the complexity has been brushed out.
Yeah. I would say I want to give a quick shout out to money being introduced into this game, as
That's
well.
a good point, yeah. That's a good
Which
change.
I think it's a good game mechanic, just in terms of being able to buy items.
Yes.
And,
and
get
even
other
more importantly,
rewards.
the other rewards. Exactly.
Well,
Yeah, being able to
yeah.
go and pay, a gold to transport a character to a different part of the map. All
Totally.
these tertiary rewards that you can gain from having a sort of resource that can
Yeah.
be applied across the map in
Right.
different ways. Yeah, I
Well-
really like that the gold mechanic exists.
And I think that just speaks again to what I was talking about the instant payoffs. There's more ways to gain like these little victories, and so it's now it's just not team markers. You also get
that's
gold,
true. Yes.
as well as boosts. So I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'll ask the next question. What does an experienced factions player do that a new factions player needs to do to get good?
Whoa. Okay. An experienced factions player do that a new faction player needs to do to get good.
Yeah.
I'm repeating the question because I'm trying to think in my brain.
You're trying to get good.
I'm trying to get
It's too late.
really good. I'm thinking to myself, like, am I an experienced factions player? I think at this point, I
You
probably
completed
should
the
be.
campaign.
I did, but I
Yeah.
was not very good. So, man, I would say for this question, probably teamwork. I think you can do a lot of things rogue if you wanted to,
Yeah.
and not collaborate with your team. But I think for you to be successful on a consistent level, you need to work together as a team. And for me, probably listen to my teammates a little bit more. So that's kind of the one off the top of my head.
I would
guess.
absolutely second that one. There's a lot of times where someone comes into the game and they're on a team, they get their selection of characters, they pick, their 2, 3, or 4 that they have to start with, and they get their mind all on those characters, and they think, what am I going to do with this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy on my next turn?
Right.
And they're not thinking about the other 8 to 12 characters that are on their team. The experienced player will move out to looking at what the other characters might be doing and how their characters might work together with those.
Right.
And then an even more experienced player is going to be thinking about what the characters on the enemy team are going to be doing next turn.
I think you also have to be a bit flexible as well, because the map is now smaller because of the
plans can change so fast.
Basically every turn the game is totally shifting on what you should do, where you should go. So basically you need to take all those things into account as well. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Do you have anything else on that?
Yeah, I would add one extra one. Don't get involved in too many fights for too long. A lot of people come into the game, and they see all these characters with all these different fighting stats. They get
so many
weapons, right? They get
man.
weapons, and then they just
Wanna
start
hit
going
someone.
absolutely ham on everybody.
Totally.
And then they end up missing out on important objectives because of that.
Totally. I'd say maybe that's another thing I'd just throw in there real quick is you need to understand the different ways to win this game.
Absolutely.
Right? There are multiple facets, multiple avenues that you can take as a team, and that might change during the game.
Yes.
Like you might get a team full of just, melee, destroy the other team, I'm going to wreck them, but that might not be the way the game goes, and then you have to shift your strategy a little bit.
Absolutely.
And so, and maybe for you personally, that's not much of a payoff. If you want to win the game, though, that's what you have to do. So, okay. What was the... Oh, this is a good one.
This is a great one.
Yeah, what was the hardest change to adjust to from the previous Duel of Ages system?
Okay, so this is actually, to me, my answer seems funny because it seems insignificant, but it's tripping me up all the time, even though it really doesn't necessarily matter that much. But it's just the changes of certain terms. Because between 10 years ago and now, right, there's been terms we've been using this whole time that are now different, right? Like calling, previously more things had more cumbersome or less specific names, and now those names are usually shorter or more descriptive. Like, for example, experience markers, right, in the previous version now called boosts. Much simpler, much shorter name, and it really actually describes what it does in the name, but I still keep calling them experience markers by mistake. I keep calling certain stats the wrong names, even though those stats have had their names changed.
True.
Happens to be way too much.
No, I was going to say that as well. I'll shift mine a little bit then. I would say the board change, I guess, because in the old Duel of Ages, it was much easier to recognize what terrain was. And so when you look at these maps, there's a lot more going on.
Yeah,
and so for me, it was jarring, I think, at first, because I was like, I don't know if that is, lava, water, swamp, or trees.
Can't tell the difference between water and lava.
First off, rude. Thank you for that. But I think for me, because the other game was so like, oh, this spot is red, this spot is blue, this spot is
featureless kind of, terrain texture or feature.
Totally, right? Or even like buildings. The buildings have like different colors, on this map.
Absolutely.
Right? But what's nice is after playing a little bit, that goes away pretty quickly.
Yeah, the experience of playing helps out.
Oh, and it has those markers.
All the markers, now that those markers are on there.
Yeah,
Chef's
much better. But besides that, I think an old, Duel of Ages player will adjust very, very quickly and smoothly. Playing
I'd
factions.
certainly say so. And I know I did, and I was very fond of the way that the game is transformed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. Let's see here. Next question is, what is your favorite treasure card in the game?
Is this a question for us?
Out of all the items, this is a real question. Out of all the items in the decks,
you know which is the best card.
Well, yeah, no, that's true. I know you have a weird thing with the ATV, and to be honest, I
have a weird thing with the ATV.
We share the weird thing
with the ATV.
There's a superstition that whoever gets the ATV just wins the game. It just always happens.
Is it a superstition if it happens every time, though?
At that point, it's a superstition.
No, that's just facts. It's literally just facts. I can't even think of any other card that comes close to the ATV because it's beautiful and it's red and
that extra +1 movement speed for the average character.
The thing is, I don't care about the boost of it.
It's true.
I
Yes.
just
it
want
literally could make you worse, and you'd still take it. Probably.
Plus, thinking about someone like Bladed Terror or something driving an ATV for whatever reason is so satisfying in my brain.
It is. That's true.
Which is a beautiful picture. So
that's good imagery.
Let's maybe get off the.
So not a meme card.
That's what I was gonna say.
An actual favorite treasure item card.
Favorite treasure card. Do you have one?
Yeah. Honestly, it doesn't come up super often because it's an elite card, but I love the Helm of Polonius.
Which is...
It's a helmet that provides a really nice armor bonus, I think +2. And in addition to that, it also makes you immune to any mental effects that you choose. So any side switching effect, any fear effect or manipulation from any enemy character or creature, you can completely ignore it while still being affected by your own allies' beneficial mental abilities and effects.
Okay.
That makes it a really awesome piece of armor.
That's really cool. I don't know if I remember that. It was in last game.
It was in last game.
Okay. Well, let me think. Well, and I wasn't listening to you because the whole time I was trying to think of one. So,
fair.
I think for me, you have to help me out on this, on the name of it.
Yeah. So
also because I don't get a lot of cards because I'm not very good. So my favorite one is the doppelganger one, the one that's a gadget that it projects like multiple images of you, and so if you hit a certain I think luck on it, it misses you because it hits the project.
It's like a mirror image thing. Right?
Yeah,
where you when you have that item, the enemy pulls their card to see the result of the attack.
Yeah, if they hit
they have a certain value
projection
on the roll,
of you,
then they just hit a fake copy of you that just doesn't do any damage.
I love that card.
Yeah, that one's awesome.
That card's really good.
I actually cater to the defensive items in general.
Me too. I like more defensive items as well, unless I have Spartacus.
Well, yeah.
So,
but Helm of Polonius on Spartacus, though.
That's true.
Extra armor,
that's overpowered.
Can't be side switched.
But think about if you had the projector too. That's like 3 Helm of Poloniuses.
That's pretty.
That's pretty good. I wish I remember what that card's name was though.
I think it might be Doppelganger. I know that there's also the eggshell generator, which just is a shield that just straight up cancels out an attack's full damage, which is similar. But
well, we'll have to do some research and get back.
Okay,
that's a good card.
Let's just throw into another category then. Let's just go with a very specific thing. What is your favorite melee weapon? Because you've been talking about Spartacus this whole time.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like I misrepresent myself. I love Spartacus so well. My favorite weapon is probably the railhammer.
Getting the railhammer on any melee character is terrifying.
I'm not sure that's like so violent though. It's like I feel like a railhammer is so much more violent getting hit by that than like a sword. But for me, it's just I love the art.
It's a very visceral blunt weapon.
I love the art of the railhammer.
Yeah.
Gives me a little bit of Kathy Bates, Misery vibes. But I'm just saying, I really like that one a lot.
It's strong, and if your character is actually strong enough to use it, right?
It's true.
And obviously, Spartacus is a thick boy.
Can I throw this back at you?
Yes.
And say what is your favorite gun? I guess
favorite gun?
Firearm.
Favorite firearm? Oh, dude. I don't know if it counts as a firearm exactly, because I think it's technically a heavy weapon.
Okay.
But I do love the red-lined Mega Blister Cannon.
Red-lined Mega Blister Cannon? Bro, that sounds...
Yo, is that still in the game? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, it's a cannon that does an absolutely absurd amount of damage from an insane amount of range, but it's like on super overload mode. So it's the like it's like a sci-fi
what's
cannon.
It called again?
The red-lined Mega Blister Cannon.
Bro, that sounds like when
you basically get one shot, or it's just gonna blow up on you. And then if you hit somebody with it, they basically get obliterated from the map.
I love that. I love the name of it because
but that's the other thing too. The name's amazing.
It makes it sound like some 8-year-old made it up and he drew a picture of it and made it into a card. And I would say another thing. I think this satisfies a lot of your inner childhood sort of dreams.
Oh yeah.
Not to get deep or anything. So those are good questions though. Shall we move on?
Well. Before that, though, to what you just said, actually,
yes,
that actually is very true in that there's one specific element of this game that it really, really does that for the childhood aspect. It settles the argument of who would win in a fight. Because it happens so much, where you have some insanely specific character archetype fighting some insanely specific character archetype with some particular weapons and terrain and stuff. You can settle that answer in this game.
That's true. And if it doesn't...
Do the Martians beat... the Space Marines?
But if you lose, they just blame the cards.
Well, yeah, of course.
That's the best blame.
Which again is just like childhood. So
that's actually totally true. That's what I always did. I never lost. It was crazy. So that's good.
All right.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question. Is it my turn?
It is.
It's my turn. Okay. You've played over 300 games of Duel of Ages between you. What are your thoughts on factions now that you have journeyed through the extensive playtesting trek?
That question is deeper.
Yeah, that's kind of loaded. I like it.
I mean, the first and foremost is that it still feels like the same game.
Yeah.
Right? We've been playing since Duel of Ages 1, which was 20 years ago now, I think, right? And then Duel of Ages 2 was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so now we're at Factions, and it still really does feel like the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it's gotten better, which is not normally something that people say as they get older and they keep playing the sequels of something, right?
Totally.
Usually they tend to say that things kind of go downhill or it's not the same as it used to be.
Right.
But really, this experience still feels very authentic to the original. And it's also just as ridiculous a lot of the time, too.
Yeah, no, you're right. Every game, I feel like, has kind of its own built-in memories, and I also feel that
that's so true.
And I think you can get some, kind of fun inside jokes with people based off of what happened in
like the ATV,
game.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think there are just some memories that you create over just playing the game, and I think that's what makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah. Certainly.
Playing from Duel of Ages 1, I just pulled from, I'm moving, and I just pulled from underneath the bed my old Duel of Ages, this whole set, right, which was in this wooden box that I made, and I opened it up, and I remember printing off all of the logos of the icons of some of the characters and putting them on the lid of the box. And I just kind of sat there for a second, and not to get sentimental over Blade of Terror, but still I just remember I was like, oh man, that's old Blade of Terror's icon. I love that, and some of these characters, and so I think what you're saying is totally true, that Duel of Ages now shifting into Factions is in a lot of ways the same game, but I think it has been kind of honed and perfected in a lot of ways that, again, I think old players will really find satisfying, but I think new players will be able to jump on board
100%
as well. So.
Yeah, I would liken it to a game that you and I are both familiar with, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, which is very much like Heroes of Might and Magic 2, but better. And likewise, Heroes of Might and Magic 2 was like Heroes of Might and Magic 1, but better. So it just kept on getting better with each iteration until they arrived at something that was just perfect.
Sorry.
4 was fine. It just wasn't as good as 3 by a long shot.
And those orchestra, the Duel of Age, the Heroes of Might and Magic orchestra. Oh,
shout out to the polls.
So good, dude.
For the Heroes Orchestra.
Man, go search that on YouTube
that's
right
good
now
music.
And enhance your life. So, but yeah, it's been fun. We've been playing for how long? When did Duel of Ages 1 come out? You're like a wee child.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably been about 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
It's a very long time.
More than half your life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just
making sure the math. We're old now.
Absolutely. And it's been great because we've also, not just you and me, but we played with so many people over the years.
Yeah.
And like we said with an earlier question, the experience of getting new people into this game has been so easy.
Right.
When I came over one time here, when you guys were all playing here, I was amazed at just how many people were here at one time.
Right.
Where we actually had to split multiple tables for multiple teams because there were so many people here playing the game at once.
What's so fun about that too is that when you do have kind of a multiple table sort of look, is that you're obviously so invested in your game, but I want to go see what's going on in the other games.
Exactly.
Because again, the games are so different, and they kind of build their own little storylines even.
Yep.
And they're freaking out over something, and you're freaking out over what's happening in your game, and so I just think the environment of playing, Factions is a really kind of fun, healthy one.
Yeah.
To bring people to, and again, kind of like I said beforehand, it's a really, really great game to teach people now who are either board game enthusiasts or not so much.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And it also correlates with the way that Duel of Ages 1 and 2 have been, and it's still true here, which is how easy the game is, not just to get into in the sense of learning how to play it and enjoy it.
Right.
But also, I love how it's very easy to just hop into the table, even in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
And just hey, can I have that character, add a player to the team. If someone has to leave early, which has happened to us going through the co-op campaign, right? That person can just head out, we'll bid them a fond farewell, and then consolidate those characters to other players, and it's seamless. The game continues.
Yeah, because you already know what's going on, basically, anyway.
Exactly. You can pick it up pretty quick.
And just taking that
by
character,
looking at the board and seeing what your party has.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's a really, I think, great point about the game. Did you have to just fight over the characters, though?
Yes. Everyone has their favorites.
Right.
Yeah. Now, through the course of the playtesting experience, has there been anything that you missed from Duel of Ages 2 or that you think needs to be either expanded upon or polished further? Because for me, the one thing is building the map. Because at least, obviously in the campaign, you don't do a whole lot of building the map.
No,
there's another team you're playing against, right? And you don't get to pick all of the components of the board. But in the regular competitive player versus player play, I at least haven't really sat down at any tables who are using rules for building the map. Usually we just throw some things out there, which is a lot faster. One of the slowest parts of Duel of Ages 2 was the initial setup relative to the full length of playing the game. So the streamlining is great, but I have missed actually very carefully picking the map platters that I want for the team that I built. Yeah.
That's interesting. I haven't really thought about that much. I think for me it's kind of a non-issue. I think I'm just not a builder of the board.
That's fair. You just want to jump into the provided experience.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to make my sandwich. Let someone else make my sandwich or salad or whatever. Like I don't care about how it was assembled. But that's just the difference, though. You know, if I was going to say if I miss anything, there is an aspect of Duel of Ages, like the actual name of Duel of Ages, of having the 4 ages fighting against each other that I kind of miss. Yeah. You know, now obviously we have the 9 factions, which I think is really cool and I really like.
I like expanding on that little like sub feature that Duel of Ages 2 had for the characters.
Right. Yeah. But it's just it was cool to have a future character on a modern map that has like a trident from ancient times.
That was
just the idea of that was really cool. And I think you still get elements of that because there are obviously still shades of characters and items being from different ages, throughout history. But I think I kind of miss the specifics maybe of
it.
That
has come together in a somewhat more unified experience. Yeah. Right. It was a little bit more happy-go-lucky slapdash before. Yeah. And now it really is sort of just come into a shared space.
Right. That's really good. Let me ask you this. Is there anything about playing or play testing through factions that has surprised you, I guess, in your experience?
If I can speak specifically to the co-op campaign, not to just the rest of the gameplay generally, but specifically to the co-op campaign, 2 things. First, I was amazed at how much the AI was actually able to play the game effectively. Right. Just going down a list of if-then sequences to make all of its decisions for all of its characters, and yet it was still so challenging to play against. Yeah. That was really fun. Yeah. And I love the fact that you can have an entire enemy team that's not even technically played by somebody, not actually making any real decisions, that you can effectively play a co-op game against. Yeah. And also, another praise to the co-op campaign. I loved that it had a storyline where you made choices that actually mattered.
Like Choose Your Own Adventure.
To the game itself. Yeah. Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes with those sorts of mechanics, it's kind of non-consequential.
Yeah, it's like, I think they call it flavor text, right? Okay. Where it's just like, we're providing a story as you play through these series of missions, which is nice. That is neat. I like the extra art, I guess, of having a story to go along with a series of missions. Yeah. But to have a story where you're changing the course of it and the choices you make matter, that's a lot of extra work.
It is.
And I respect that.
Yeah, but it also gets you more good. Yeah, it gets you more invested.
100% more invested. So it's a much more invested experience than just reading a flavor text before and then after the mission.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. So. Okay.
All right.
Last one.
Last question.
Okay.
I'll ask the last question.
Okay.
Do you think that miniatures should be in the game?
Man, these miniatures are incredible. I mean, I have not stopped looking at the construction of these miniatures. I know a lot of people.
No, they're beautiful, man.
They're incredible. Yeah. I think a lot of people.
That's been done on this is amazing.
A lot of people love miniatures. They like the idea of seeing a 3D representation of their character, on the board, and painting painting them. I know a lot of people are enthusiasts of that, and so I think there is
This giant is so awesome.
I think there is a space to have miniatures for, maybe someone who wants to paint them, or I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I'm actually gonna say no, just because there are so many characters in the game in general that it's basically not impossible. It would just take a lot to have miniatures for
It would take so
all
much.
of the characters.
Yeah.
And so again, they're awesome.
Because there's
I
over
think-
100
I mean,
heroes as it is right now.
Yeah, and they're also great.
And
like-
there's going to be more later.
Right, exactly. So, again, I think there is a space for maybe fans of the game to purchase, like a pack of miniatures or specific types of miniatures for maybe their favorite.
If somebody wants to acquire or print,
Sure, they
miniatures.
put it on their shelf or their desk or something like that. I mean, that's awesome. Like, I would do that.
Well,
Right?
yeah, these things are absolutely gorgeous.
I know, like, I want to steal some of these, like, right now. They're amazing. But in terms of including it in the actual game itself, I'd probably say not at this time.
Yeah, I'm similar on that. Although full disclosure, I don't typically use minis even for things like Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Which is probably somewhat controversial.
Right.
I think that first of all, when you use a miniature, it is a lot more work. If you have to actually print them out or keep them all stored somewhere, it's a lot of extra overhead. And I don't really have the time or inclination for that much extra overhead.
Yeah.
But I massively respect the people who do.
Oh,
especially the people who also can paint them.
them.
Because the painting is easily the most difficult part that I have no ability to actually do successfully.
Right. Well, James, do you have any last thoughts?
This game is great, and it's the best iteration of what's come out for the 20 years that this series has been a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm really excited for the future sets to expand on it further, honestly.
Yeah. No, that's great. Again, I would just say that I've been playing for, years and years and years, both of us have. And I get bored with things real quick.
You do.
I just thank you guys. I love the honesty. But I have not gotten bored of playing this game, like, at all.
Yeah.
And I'm not a paid actor, but seriously, it's incredible the way that this game changes and shifts, and it's a satisfying experience every time I play it. Even in defeat, frankly, it's a great experience.
Yeah, it's true.
Unless I lose to you.
That's why we're usually on the same team. That way it's a better experience for everybody.
And then we stack the deck to get the ATB. And then it's an automatic win.
Yes.
So
yeah, I agree.
Cool. All right. Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this video.
Yeah.
Hit like, subscribe.
Hit like, subscribe, and you can hit the notification bell if you want updates on new videos.